Inner City East Linwood Revitalisation Working Group. Now, since one of the presenters is my sister-in-law, which I have to declare, I'm just wondering if I should just sit back and let Andrew chair the meeting.
You're just listening, aren't you?
Eh?
Just listening, really.
Yeah, I know. No?
You're not making a decision.
All right.
Not making a decision.
Okay. Well, can I introduce you all to Jane Higgins, who's my sister-in-law, and Jenny Smith, we know very well. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a PowerPoint presentation to accompany this, just to whip through our main points. Yes, I am Jane Higgins. I'm the facilitator of the Inner City East Linwood Revitalisation Working Group. With me is Jenny Smith from Te Whare Roimata, community development worker there. And we, I'm not sure if you have access, here it comes.
Yes, coming.
Now, do I control this from here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So if you go to the first or the next slide, we're a working group that's been going for about 12 months. We were formed after some extensive community conversations that have taken place over the last several years in the Inner City East Linwood area. We work in a very community-led, community-based way, and we've been working on a revitalisation plan for 12 months, and we produced at the end of last year a progress report about that plan to the community board. Next slide please. We are working in a long-term way. So last year, in anticipation of the working group being formed, Te Whare Roimata put forward a submission to the annual plan covering a number of points that we have since developed programs of work around, and they covered community space, the cycleway, at least the area of the cycleway in our neighbourhood, residential planning and design guidelines, and neighbourhood rubbish collection. So I'd just like to take you through those 4 points because our submission today follows up on each of those. The first one is, next slide thanks, or in fact the one after that, a community hub. So we are looking towards the development of a community hub in the Linwood Village area. We have very strong community support for this, and we've done quite a bit of work as a working group in working out the needs and the purposes that that hub would fulfil, the principles by which it would run. We have applied for some funding to run a feasibility study with a community-minded design person so that we can translate those principles and purposes into the material reality of an architect's brief or something similar to that. So what we're here today to talk to or to apply for is council support for the purchase of some land in the village area. There are a couple of sites which are possible. Oh, no, not yet, thanks. And for the inclusion of that hub in the council's community facilities network plan. So that's the first thing that we'd like to highlight. The second is around the cycleway. Thank you. As you'll see from those pictures, the cycleway is a bit of a problem, particularly around the Worcester Street, Fitzgerald Avenue part of it. Next slide, thanks. The concerns have been raised about the cycleway since before it was put in, and there are concerns around safety, around usability, around parking, around rubbish collection. The working group has been in talks with council staff about this, about the design of it, but we've come to the point where we realise that while we can't necessarily change the design of it, we would certainly like some support to talk to operational staff about the different very specific problems around safety and usability and parking and rubbish collection. So we're seeking support for a resolution around working with operational staff in relation to that. Next slide, thanks. The third area that we are talking about in our submission is around the possibility of a neighbourhood plan. Since the earthquakes, we've experienced a lot of issues around the design of housing, the design of the neighbourhood, particularly around, next slide, thanks, the loss of character and amenity, the big growth in Airbnb, which is kind of a death knell to a community in lots of ways because of the lack of permanent people there, the lack of community cohesion that leads to. We'd love some more green space, and we also have concerns from people around off-street parking in the way that housing is now designed. So we joined ICANN, and we fully support ICANN's aims. What we're seeking support for is the development of a neighbourhood plan. We appreciate that the district plan is sort of a big overview, but that's a very long-term change that we'd seek. So now we'd like to ask for a neighbourhood plan which would be more short-term, more specific around our particular neighbourhood. And third and finally, the issue of rubbish collection. You may be aware that the issue of inorganic rubbish collection has been an issue for quite some time in our neighbourhood. Next slide, thanks. It's an issue of ongoing concern. It's an issue which affects not just the appearance of the neighbourhood, but also people's feelings of belonging in the neighbourhood, their perception of safety in the neighbourhood. If the area looks neglected, people feel less safe. So we have developed a really successful pilot in the last 6 months working with the Te Whare Roimata Labour Group, who have gone round on a monthly basis collecting large-scale inorganic rubbish. Obviously, this has ongoing associated costs with it, and we would like to request some assistance with those ongoing associated costs. And we've also noticed that one of the big items of rubbish tends to be mattresses. People just throw them out on the sidewalk, and we're aware that there are some pilots for recycling mattresses elsewhere in the country, and so we just invite the council to give some thought to looking at a local mattress recycling scheme. So those are our 4 areas. Finally, I'd like to thank the council for the support that we've had over the last year. We've had fantastic support from council staff. We've had great support from the community board and from the Community Resiliency Partnership Fund. So we're very grateful for all of those. As you can see, we're in a kind of ongoing program of work, and so we're very keen for that support to continue. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Anne? Yep, yeah, sorry.
Thank you. It's great that you are doing such a terrific job at strengthening the community, particularly in the whole safety issue in the community. What particular ways are you focusing on the whole issue of the conception of safety and use of the issue? Are there things like, I see you've got some things, how are they working? Is it working?
Are you getting that stronger sense of safety in the community?
Do you want to?
It's been an ongoing issue for a long time, and a lot of it stems, as many know, post-quake and the fact that it's a vulnerable neighbourhood. So there have been efforts done, like the alcohol ban, but there's also been some community efforts that have been done through using the resilience funding to be able to look at, a bit like what you've got uptown, the street worker, looking in the neighbourhood to being able to provide that supportive presence in the street. Because there is a little bit of gang tension, and it's particularly present at the moment. And I guess it's also working besides the neighbourhood constable, which at the moment we don't have. So that there are efforts, and then there are efforts to be able to begin a conversation with the locals around what they would like to see, and knowing what we're seeing that is evidence-based throughout the country that works in a fairly vulnerable neighbourhood.
Okay. So do you have a mechanism in which, if someone is feeling intimidated, for example, at a local shop, a process through which they might ring somebody, or are people aware of those sorts of things?
So we have a good sort program that operates, and we are looking to be able, so there's a person out on the street for a couple of 2 or 3 days a week. The Tiny Shops Village is known as a place to go to if you're in the street and you're feeling vulnerable. There are 1 or 2 shops that are also really important, but we want to be able to extend, I guess, recruiting some respected members of the neighbourhood that, you know, can be identified as this is what you can come to. So if you're going to the ATM, there's people who are available to go if there's a presence close to the ATM.
Okay, thank you.
Phil? Oh, sorry. Dion was first. So, but it's okay. There's plenty of time.
I'll ask mine
So
then,
Phil
next
and then
Dion.
Dion.
Thank you very much. And clearly, the inner city east part is probably the most deprived and challenging area in our city. So I'm really pleased that you've come and that with the projects you have taken on. But I'm just wondering, with the community hub concept and doing developing a feasibility study, would there be some good examples, say, from overseas, whether it's Australia or Britain, that in fact where some, full-scale hands-on projects have actually been successful, that we could also draw on? You might better tell me that.
Yes, we have looked at a couple of those and are in the process of looking more deeply into those. There are some really good examples in the United States and in the UK of places where people can come to be involved in activities. And one of the things that we've talked about is that people shouldn't need a kind of particular invitation to come into a community hub. If there's activities going on, and we have this happening in the tiny shops at the moment, there are activities, there are workshops, there's the icicles and a range of other things that are going on, that if people feel that they can come to those places and engage in some activities, then that's where they make the community connection. And there are some really great examples. There's a very good example in the UK, and there's a very extensive handbook that's come out of the United States, which I can't just give you the reference for at the moment, but that we are starting to look at. So drawing on that expertise and drawing on what's already going on in a way in the tiny shops area, with that sort of welcoming, come along, just sit and watch or be involved or do something crafty or whatever. Just that sense of people being able to come to a place where they don't have to consume. That's also been a big thing, because you can go to the malls but there's all the pressure to consume. We want a place where people can be citizens together, not having to be consumers together. So,
Thanks, Jane.
yeah.
Dion.
It's actually already been largely asked now, so thanks for the work that you're doing, and I'm really disappointed that you didn't bring that cup of tea.
I will.
No, it's all good. Actually, I do have one thing to ask, and it's around the facility that you're saying that we need. How do you think that would fit in with the existing facility that we have across the road, the art gallery area?
I think it's important that we acknowledge that that is an art space, a community art space that has an important role in the arts. We're talking about complementing that with the hub. We're also, and I think in part of the hub is the activities, but also maybe social enterprise, opportunities of a little cafe or other opportunities for people to be able to try out ideas in a supportive environment. So I don't see it as competing, see it as complementing each other.
Thank you. Cheers.
The hub would also draw together, since the earthquakes, a number of services have been fragmented around the neighbourhood, and the hub would be a place to draw those together and enable people to come to a place where it's all happening.
And just one last thing, on the Airbnb thing a few weeks ago, the council has approved to take a remit to the local government New Zealand on Airbnb and to look at that issue, and that will have a big impact on the issues that we're seeing within the inner city east especially.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and for your presentation.